morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here. I can't stop smiling for some reason. Yes, I'm here to look at the weekly energies for today's Monday's Musings on the 8th of September 2025. For some reason, isn't that interesting that I need a reason to be smiling? Today's video has taken a back burner to myself first and foremost, so that I can ground into my body. I've spent some time trying to get comfortable with the camera, comfortable with the screen, comfortable with the fact that I'm wearing glasses, comfortable with the fact that my hair has a mind of its own, comfortable with external things. And the truth is, I don't think I ever will be. What matters is that I'm comfortable with myself. Now, I share that because that seems to be the perspective to be discussed this week with the energies. Why? Because we are leading into the equinox. We are leading into a time where the light and the dark balance, but also the masculine and the feminine, also our past and our future, also our physical and our spiritual, also as above, so below, as within, so without. Fill in the gaps, basically any polarities. We are facing an invitation this week and the next few weeks actually to ensure that we're in harmony in them all. For me, that took walking to the beach, making sure that my body felt comfortable, that I felt in tune with what I felt and the messages around me. This week we're being encouraged to feel into anything that grounds us into our body in a pleasant way, but not to get too lost. When I came back, because I'd been out for a walk, I thought actually I'd much rather do the ironing. I know, right? Do the ironing, do the gardening, sit and chill, sit and read, because I've had a full-on weekend of what I call muggle magic, mundane things, reading, crafting, being with my husband, going for walks, normal things, and my physical body has really yearned for that. It's brought balance for me. Obviously I don't want to do the ironing this morning, of course I don't. It was about the fact that I was avoiding the other side that needed balance, which was to share this video, to tune into the energies, to fulfill my intentions. This week it can be very easy to look at where we may negatively be out of balance, but the encouragement there is also to look at where we may positively be out of balance as well. We have just had a Pisces full moon, and Pisces in its glory is the most psychic astrological sign there is, the most in tune, vision-led, open, creative, musical, magical energy that there is. My son is a Pisces, and they are a wonder to witness in action. The shadow aspect of the Pisces can be a lack of focus. It can be a temptation to remain in dreamlike potential without putting that into action. It can be overindulgence and the things that we love, be that relationships or alcohol or socializing or drugs, or for me this morning, nature. Really looking this week, because it's on the Virgo axis, really looking where the visions that we have, the enjoyment that we feel, can be embodied in the parts of our life that we may not. So that we can really bring in that harmony. We can really bring that light into the darkness, those masculine actions into our feminine intuitiveness, that spiritual drive into our physical body. Because only then are we above, so below, within, so without, which is going to be really important next year. The year of the magician, the year of the hermit, the year of the wheel of fortune, the year of the sun card, because it all comes from the number 10. Until then, especially tomorrow being the 9-9 in the 9-year portal, which adds up to 9, we have an opportunity to look at completion for what it is, what it really, really is. I've said it before, I'll say it again, completion is not endings. It is that phase just before change. Completion is balance. Completion is harmony. Completion is that in-between moment, that transitional period where we change seasons, where we go from what was to what is to become. And you can hear the work going on outside. There is still work to be done with that. And tomorrow with the 9-9 portal, I would strongly encourage that you look at what balance means to you, how it feels, how it impacts your day-to-day living and your own place within that, your own responsibility within that. This morning, the reason I wanted to stay outside longer wasn't because I didn't want to do this video, it's because I haven't been outside enough. So I get outside and it's, you know, like giving a child a sweet. They want more. So I've promised myself after this video, after I've done what I need to do, I will get back outside again. And this is common sense. But it doesn't mean it's become an innate sense. And that's the emphasis this week. Although we know the more we look after ourselves, the more we're in balance, the more we're grounded, the more we're in harmony, the better the services we offer, you know, the less obligatory they are, the more loving they can be, the more connected we are. We know all of these things. But like the Pisces vision, if they haven't come down through our body and been experienced, they are not innate senses. They are common sense. But we're talking about reprogramming for some a way of life that has been handed down to them through generations. So, for example, getting someone to put themselves first when their whole life has been about their family or their job or whatever it is you may be stood behind priority-wise, is a whole new way of thinking. So softly, gently this week, ensure that you can restore balance as much as possible, even in the areas where you can't. Having that compassion for yourself, that love for yourself. It's a work in progress. It's something to be explored and enjoyed, not got right. That's the other side of the Virgo axis. We can get overwhelmed this week by perfection, by need to know it all. But coming back to the center and remembering next year as we go into the place of change, there are things to be completed with ourselves so that we can change anything, shift anything, transform anything from as much as possible embodied perspective. Why? At the center of the medicine wheel we have a cross. At the center of the wheel of fortune there is a cross. You know, the Peruvians have the Southern Cross, the as above, so below. There is a bridge, the good road, the yellow road, the red road, all of the elements, you know, the feminine, the masculine, the Christian cross at the center of it all, at the center of our hope, our faith, our belief, our direction in life, however you choose to see that, is a cross. My invitation this week is to remember that that cross is you. That we are the balance of any change. We are the structure that holds any transformation in place. And to really ensure we are at the very center of everything that we decide to do from there on. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to look at the energies this week. There's nothing else to add. That is the other, you know, we can get very caught up in. So I believed then there was nothing else to add because I know that I need to be more focused. However, collectively also, really looking at what we're going to focus on as we go into next year. There may not be nothing more to add, but there may be things that we need to streamline towards. There may be things not to be released or taken away, but completed. Okay. Beautiful portal tomorrow, really using that. Obviously, yes, we are portals. Obviously, everything has energy that connects everything together. There's an interconnectedness there. However, numerically tomorrow, the frequencies are of completion. You know, 999 is 27, which is the High Priestess and the Chariot, but also comes back round to the 9 and the Hermit. So taking time tomorrow to really feel into any wisdom that you've gained and how that can help you move forward. It may not be in the way that you expect. My classic, I thought this morning that I would need a lot more outside walking and things like that, is just because I enjoy it. What I actually need is more focus. and to get comfortable with that. So really feeling into that, particularly on the 9/9 portal tomorrow, could be beneficial. Okay, card that's already come out. You couldn't write this. I haven't even shuffled the cards, I've just picked them up. And the card that fell out was the Two of Swords. Balance. My whole camera just moved. Balance. When we have balance, our whole perspective can change, right? Yes, light and dark, yes, masculine and feminine, but how we stand within those energies also. And at the very top of the pack, we have 10 of Cups, purity and child consciousness. So the Page of Swords, looking at things from a beginner's mind, which can be really, really difficult, but allowing yourself permission to see things new as often as you can, yourself included. Like I say, this is an ongoing journey of transformation. You have the dragonfly underneath there, an ongoing journey of transformation. You still have the balance around you, but just remembering that when we look at things from a younger perspective, that transformation is easier, more simplistic. I'm using these cards, which are the Mythical Goddess Tarot by Catherine Skaggs is the artist and Sage Holloway is the author. I'm using them because I adore their simplicity. They're describing something as incredible as mythical goddesses throughout time, vessels of creation throughout time, and yet their simplicity speaks to us on a symbolic soul-led level. This week, not getting too involved in complicating the process or the information that's coming through, really going back to primal senses, innate symbolism, things that spark you, things that call to you. Obviously, in an ideal world, we all live so spontaneously, we can just get up and go and do whatever we want to do. I do understand that we have priorities and responsibilities and things that need to be done, but where we can this week, allowing ourselves the freedom of exploring our thoughts and seeing where they go, of picking up a piece of paper and a pen and writing if we feel drawn to, of going for that walk, allowing ourselves to be guided by a simpler language of the soul, a yearning of the soul. I walked down to the beach today and there were so many messages there through things that I'd seen or found on my walk, including a stick, which is just going to come home and be, worked with and walked alongside, shall we say. But one of the things I saw on the way, amongst walls that had been built and that were being held in place by rusty old scaffolding and roses that were growing through fences, beauty that was growing through restriction, regardless of how much it had been tried to be held back. One of the beautiful things I saw was an empty Snicker bar, and I remember a piece that I wrote probably about a decade ago now about the soul not being itself when it's hungry. This week, if you're struggling with anything, looking at where you may not have provided enough sustenance for your soul to see things for how they really are. Just going back to that childlike consciousness. It doesn't mean immaturity. It means allowing some beauty in, because it just changes the perspective of everything when we restore that balance. Underneath it all, we have the Lover's card, which is Shakti, ecstatic union here. To one side, there is the Seven of Pentacles, which in this deck is failure. Looking at how we see failure, because the Seven of Pentacles is normally growth. So how we see failure, how we see growth, how that dictates how united we are with our own Shakti, how united we are with our own essence and our own energy this week, our own soul. And where that may need tweaking or some balance restoring. Okay. That will probably be the whole emphasis of the video, to be fair, on the energies this week, but let's break it down bit by bit. Which I recommend doing. If it gets a bit intense this week, I recommend doing that, really breaking down what are you seeing, what are you feeling, what are you hearing. One of the posts I shared just now, every now and then when I go on a little walk, I take some videos and I call it Life Seen. And it's so important to look at what we see, what we feel, what we hear, what, our five senses, to come back down to earth into our five senses, to break things down. There's this overwhelming drive to connect to our sixth sense, which for me personally is an expansion of all five senses. So looking at the foundations, looking at how strong our foundations are, how strong is our ability to see and observe before we pick up a deck of tarot cards. You know, the information around us, how strong is our ability to feel things, to be with our own emotions before we start working with others and theirs. Now, that's not said in any sense of judgment, but realistic, practical truth that if we do not know where we're looking at things from, how are we going to understand our perspective? If we do not know what we feel, how are we going to be able to work with what is ours and what we're being asked to hold space for? Huge pain behind my third eye there. And yes, our senses are being developed. Yes, our vision is being increased. And yes, there is resistance there. There is resistance there. Bring it back to the childlike consciousness. You know, we can all want to see things, but have reasons why it may not be beneficial, whether that's relationships aren't working or ways of us doing things that are now outdated, meaning that we need to grow or change. We all have reasons why we may not want to see things. Going back to the childlike consciousness, allowing yourself to open up and do so from a more, wow, yeah, open energy. Okay. When we go back to the childlike consciousness, we're starting again. We're not seeing things from our past. We're not experiencing things from what has happened before. And there's real tension with that. Feel into the gentility that's available. I posted something today about how wonderful it is that we're going to see trees and how easily they teach us release. Now, it's not downplaying, you know, grief or loss or things that need to change, but where there is some respite, where things can be more gentle, allow that in. Slowly but surely, allow that in. And it's the darkness. What we're doing is we're allowing the darkness in, but it's not the darkness as in just fear or shadow or negativity. It's the feminine. Allow that vision to be part of our innate senses, particularly as we start to go into the autumnal months. Okay, energies this week and how to best navigate them. Six of Cups at the bottom of the pack. Pleasure. Open ourselves up. You know, that sun is still out there. I saw it today, took some beautiful pictures of it. That sun is still out there. Enjoy the light while we can. I'm going to just leave it there. There's a lot of temptation to go down the road of potentials and recognise this week that it is potentials. Bring it back to the light. Keep bringing it back to the light. Keep bringing it back to what brings you pleasure. It's okay to feel good with what you do. It's okay to feel good, to tap into energies that feel good. Yes, we often see things we may not appreciate or like or want to see. So those moments where you do feel good are so important. Enjoy them as much as possible, because then when we recognize that the good moments come too and we allow ourselves to have them, we don't use artificial light in darkness. We can be in the darkness because we know the beauty of the light will return. As we start to get ready to go into equinox, allowing ourselves the pleasure of everything that we enjoy, knowing that when there's moments that we can't have that, those more positive aspects will return also. Can't force positivity, no matter how much we try. We can't force positivity, but we can deny it. This week, really, really looking into that and looking into any barriers we may have to the beauty that is actually there. Okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Let's move that to one side. Sunday. Wow. Overall, yeah. So immediately I could see that there's going to be a real mental maturation this week of our ideas, our focus, our clarity, and how we see things, ourselves included. And there are a lot of major arcanas here which come up as forms of goddesses. So really being aware of the different goddess type energies. I think it was, well, Goddess Day yesterday. Really being aware of the different goddess type energies, the different ways that the feminine approaches us, the different ways that we can embody that energy. Now, when I say feminine, I do not mean gender. I mean intuition that can be action-based as well. That doesn't mean that it's the masculine. That can be a very balanced feminine energy. I mean how we create with something, how we hold something, how we see something, how we feel about something. These are all aspects of the feminine and will come in many different ways this week to help us mature our mindset and how we see that in our lives, how we feel about that in our lives, how we understand. Of course, when we see, we feel, we hear, we touch, all of our senses help us to understand something. If we're cutting out one of those senses, if we don't want to see something, if we don't want to listen to something, if we don't want to feel something, if we're cutting out these senses, we don't fully understand something either. We cannot take it to that sixth sense, to that next level, which is the third eye. We cannot bring in a different vision. We cannot connect to this element within us in the moon eye key. It's about having our needs met. Yeah, we cannot really fill into this abundant way of seeing the world if we remove any of the aspects of our senses. You cannot take out Kali, the goddess of death and rebirth, and expect there to be change. Equally, you cannot take out the goddess Ixchel, the moon, and expect the sun to be as radiant as it is. All of these aspects, all of these parts of ourselves, of the feminine within us, are vital and relevant. So this week it is about the mother of creativity. It is about the Queen of Swords. It is about how we see our ability to focus and have clarity. Often the feminine, and I do it myself, often the feminine is seen as an energy that kind of scoots around things, that sees all these different ways of acknowledging aspects of life but never gets to the point. The Queen of Swords challenges that. In the old ways, and the old perspectives, the Queen of Swords would have been seen as very direct, would have been seen as a widow, without the masculine, would have been seen as, and this is important to understand because we're talking about the archetypes of Mother Mary, we're also talking about the archetypes of Mary Magdalene, we're also talking about the archetypes of priestesses and oracles, of how we see the feminine. It doesn't have to be soft and gentle or strict and There's a middle ground here being redeveloped for the feminine, and it is the Queen of Swords energy that's going to take us through that. Yes, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, on the one hand it can be quite clear and full of focus, and on the other hand it can come across as quite direct, and for some sharp. Really sensing into that this week and acknowledging that may be needed for balance. That may be needed to create something different. That may be needed to nurture what you're already creating. On the Monday, we're going to get a little insight into that. It might skew with us a little bit. We might be taking on a little bit of a journey to see more perspectives, but ultimately that's where we're headed because we have the maiden of clarity. So before we can get to that point of nurturing completely the one vision to take us forward, we have to see them all. We have to embody the energy of eagle, of condor, of the heart space, of that greater perspective by stepping back and witnessing, getting prepared to go after what it is we want, but ensuring we know what that is first by looking at everything that we may not. I don't actually want a life where all I do is walk along the beach all day every day. I don't also want a life where all I do is work. So restoring that balance this week, really looking at what it is we want to get clear on and focusing on that with maiden clarity. So when we think about the maiden, she's fertile. Yeah, she's coming into that point of being able to create something, but she isn't quite there yet. She's still young. She's full of potential, but she's not ready to take care of it yet. So on the Monday, just allowing things to unfold, to unravel, to sit back, witness, observe, and enjoy the view. On the Tuesday, we have childlike innocence. Now, we can know what we want. Childlike innocence is the Page of Cups. We can know what we want. We can look into what is being reflected and see the world that we want to leave behind, or the world that we want to create, or, do we see ourselves in that though? That's what's going to be really important on the Tuesday. And when we start to see ourselves in that, when we start to see our role in that, that can trigger the inner child that wants to just remain hidden, that wants to just remain held, that wants to have it done for it, that wants to have the innocence not stripped from its view, from its beliefs, from its dreams, from its hopes. I've worked with many people that when we get through the healings or the readings, they return to a place of enlightenment with their childlike self. Oh yes, oh my God, I used to love doing that as a child, that they'd actually forgotten. And what has happened is they've protected their self from that so that they don't overthink it, so that they don't destroy it with how it should be, or perfectionism. On the Tuesday, gently, gently be with your inner child and create something for the sake of it. Do something for the sake of it. Remember what it's like to feel that joy and that innocence. Nurture that. On the Wednesday, that actually takes our mentality up a notch. And I've just realised that the energy all week, yes, I was right. It was the Queen of Swords. Sorry, it's because the whole deck is feminine. So we may get confused come the Wednesday with feminine intuition and masculine actions because they've been divided. But recognizing without a vessel to create, nothing gets done. Recognizing, without the earth to plant seeds, it doesn't matter how much potential there is, nothing gets done. Without our body on board, nothing gets done. So I'm not saying that the feminine is more important than the masculine, but I'm saying the vessel that holds them both is. And that's us, that's the earth, that's the vision itself, that's the energy behind it all. So really sensing into that, come the Wednesday, we have the King of Swords. What would be the King of Swords? The more masculine approach to things in the crone visionary. There's a huge misconception that when you come into cronehood you no longer create because you don't have cycles. The truth of the matter is you still have those cycles, but you don't lose blood, so you don't lose life force in those cycles. You hold all of those cycles as the one cycle that they always were. The earth has spring, summer, autumn, winter, but she's still the earth and she still holds them all. Come the Wednesday, acknowledging that we hold all of the potential, the beginning of a project, the end of a project, the mix up bits in between of a project. We hold that all within us. Only when we recognize that can we truly see the fertility of the stage that we're at and work with where we may be in that cycle. Is there anything else to add here? Yes, of course. So on the Monday, you can see that the younger energy of it all being about me. What do I want? What am I going after? What do I need to gain focus on? The invitation there of witnessing what is going on around us means we no longer ride the potential. You can see the feathers here and the eye have become the feminine. We become the potential. When we see things, and I'm not saying that it's not okay to want things, that's the initial spark, right? We feel something in it, oh, I'd like that. If we stop just with what we can consume, we don't complete the cycle, which means we don't actually really learn. We don't get sustenance on a soul level. Come the Wednesday, if we can take what it is that is triggered, glimmered, invited, enticed, aroused us, and really let ourselves create with it. There's geese flying overhead. In how we can share that with others. Come the Wednesday, we start to really see a far bigger vision than us just wanting something. It becomes a collective vision, and when we step into that, it has far greater potential. We have far greater potential. Thursday is time to pause, to literally drink from our own cup, because we have the Eight of Swords, which is confusion. What I see here is mind blown. So we can call it confusion, or I'm hearing Confucius. We can call it confusion, or we can call it mind blown. It all depends on how we want to see it. Yeah, we can look at all the different things that are going on and allow it to take us and expand our view of ourselves included, or we can, from a fear-based mentality, try to control what we're seeing And that can cause huge confusion because we're only going to see it from the perspective that we find ourselves in. On the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have the Four of Cups. In this deck, I love it because in the normal Four of Cups, and that feels important, normally this would feel like boredom or apathy. The normal Four of Cups, you see somebody sat underneath a tree, and I want to share that as well. They're sat under a tree, so they're grounded, right? They're grounded in their body. There is a very physical representation of an emotion. They're sat beneath a tree, they're looking very bored, they're concentrating on everything that they did have, everything that they did want, everything that they have created or didn't create, and they can't see the gift of something new coming in. In this deck, when we look at things from a more feminine approach, a more goddess-like vision, in this deck, the emotional energy is portrayed by emotions. It's not portrayed by physicalness. It's not portrayed by objects, but feelings. And in that gift was always something that that person had. That gift, when feeling calm, when feeling present with our emotions, is a pearl of wisdom that was always there waiting to be seen. Around the throat chakra as well, so around how the soul expresses itself. I also want to mention the correlation between the throat chakra and the root chakra and the sacral chakra. There's huge intertwined remembrance returning with that. I can see like a siren song. I can see people stood, my heart just went, people stood in the ocean, people remembering their voice, their ability to sing with the ocean, their ability to voice the voice of the ocean, to give emotions expression. I'm seeing it a lot. I'm doing my own creative expression sessions, but I'm seeing a lot of people working with the elements, particularly water, particularly our emotions, for the source of wisdom that it is. On the Saturday, of course, we have Ixchel, we have the moon. When we talk about this goddess, she's a Mayan goddess, and she is probably one of the only goddesses I know that portrays every aspect of the goddess. So fertility, death, rebirth, creation, the cycle, because she's linked to the moon, right? All parts of emotions, all parts of cycles, all parts of potential, all parts of the feminine. Saturday, that is what we're being offered. Unlike the other moon cards, it's not portrayed in a wild wolf-like energy on one hand, or a domesticated loyal-like energy in the dog on the other hand. It's not portrayed with a Cancerian hard shell crab emerging from the psyche. This is about the rainbow colours of the body, of the serpent, of the chakras, of that Shakti, of the Kundalini energy that is rising within us, and the peace and movement and rhythm that is natural to us that can bring. Yes, of course, when we step into that, things may be a classic interpretation of the moon card is illusion. Things may be seen for what they really are. This weekend, I have so enjoyed myself because I felt calm and gentle and soft. That does not fit with a huge part of my persona, a huge part of how I've had to be. Recognizing that there's more to me than that also. So come the Saturday, acknowledging, honoring, the other aspects of you, the rainbow, the many, many colours that you are. On the Sunday, we have the star card, or Pleiadian star goddess. This reminds me of ancestors. This reminds me of white buffalo calf woman, although it isn't. And that feels quite important to acknowledge. It feels like an indigenous energy, but it isn't. I'm going to say it isn't just an indigenous energy. It's galactic energy as well. It's not shamanic energy. It's not angelic energy. It's not galactic energy. Yeah, it's all of it. It's all of it coming together within us by the end of the week on the Sunday to allow us to see the vision we are in its completeness. Only from there, only from opening ourselves up to our own soul's expression, our own soul's name, if you will. That would be a really nice thing to do at the weekend. Asking. I've seen a few things actually. I was given a name the other day as well in my own meditation, but I've seen a few things lately that have been suggesting we seek our soul's name. That's not to say the name that we're given isn't relevant. That could be quite important as well. So my name is Kirsty, which is a derivative of Christine, which means follower of Christ, which up until the last decade, oh my goodness, yeah, that's not something I would have resonated with. So what I'm getting at here is, come the weekend, do you resonate with what you've been named after? Do you resonate with the energy you have identified yourself as, or others have? Really feeling into that. What can you do to rename yourself, to call out your own soul's truth? What can you do? That may be that you give yourself a nickname. That may be that you connect to something that you always wanted to do, or that you used to do as a child. Whatever you can this week, really sparking that wisdom from within you. Okay, so we have, yes, the pleasure card at the bottom of the deck. The way to restore harmony is to find pleasure. Now, I'm not saying enjoy something that you don't enjoy, but as soon as you can, make sure you top yourself up. Although I say I'm not saying enjoy something that you can't enjoy, but you can be fully present with that. And that's not to suggest that you then fake what you're feeling, but honour what you're feeling. That can be how we give our soul a voice, by acknowledging our own emotions. Okay, so we have lots of sword cards here. Lots of sword cards here. 2 cup cards. How many major arcanas? 2. We have the moon and the star cards here. Is the vision an illusion, or how we've seen ourselves within it? That is the question this week. If you're going to take anything forward, what is it that emotionally we haven't quite connected to? What is it that we haven't this common side of me, haven't come out with yet? What is it that we haven't opened ourselves up to yet? You'll feel it. You'll feel it here in the higher heart. I have this thing with my husband when I say to him, oh, I know that's true because I can feel it in my heart. And it's a real, I get very emotional when I feel something that is on a deeper level. I get quite emotional with it. So if we don't feel our emotions, how can we feel that truth? How can we feel that truth? Okay, so we then have 4 sword cards. We have, I wanted to grip my hands then, like, oh, pray this week. Really feeling into praying this week for the incredible connection that it is. Not just to source, you know, not whatever that may be for you, but for yourself. How many times do we say, oh God, or please, or these are all prayers. These are all prayers that have been acknowledged. Our emotions have been acknowledged. And when we pray, that's what we do. We are praying. We are connecting to how we feel. We are connecting to our environment. We are grounding, seeing prayer for the grounded action that it can be. We can have a thought that can mull around and mull around and mull around. And if we don't do, we're so encouraged to let go of the thoughts, to observe the thoughts, but there can be some thoughts that stay with us. So go into that thought, pray for that thought, write down that thought, you know, breathe through the thought, allow the thought to have its process, because thinking is a process also that can bring great stability. Or a box, I had to move the box to one side, right? Move to one side how we see the very element of air, how we see it's not just the unknown, it's not just our ancestors, it's not just the north nodes and things like that, but how we see the element of air. So on the medicine wheel that I work with, the element of air is held in space by the hummingbird, which is about joy and divine nectar, feeding from that, letting that give us the strength that we need for the hero's journey. So this week, allowing your thoughts the joy and pleasure of being what they need to be, allowing them to take you on a journey, allowing them to show you what you may have been avoiding this week. allowing them to create something different. We can't create something different if we don't acknowledge what is there. And yes, that can bring up depression. Yes, that can bring up mental confusion. Yes, that can bring up a split almost in who we are. I'm not suggesting you do this on your own. If mentally you need support, go out and find that support this week. However, shutting it down, trying to ignore it, isn't going to work. It's restricting not only how we see ourselves, but the world around us. So, seeking additional help to be able to focus in a way that takes these mindsets and creates something different. From an emotional perspective, we have 3. So we have the creativity comes from our emotions, not by avoiding them. Can't say that enough. Yes, there is a childlike innocence there. Yes, there is potentially a trauma there that has been holding us encased until we have been able to face the wisdom that that can provide. The only way to do that is through pleasure and joy. By forcing the emotions, by trying to fix or heal, let's face it, get rid of, is going to have the opposite effect, and that's going to cause that split mentally, that depression mentally, that authoritarian view of how you should be, how things should be. This week, instead, allowing a more nurturing approach to joy for what it can form, which is a new way to see the vision, a new way to see our emotions, a new way to see our potential. The answers aren't all going to be there this week. To be honest with you, it's not until we have the solar eclipse and the second new moon in Virgo that things are going to slot into place. So as much as you can, enjoy the process. One card to help us through this week. Remember that it's through this week. Get through one day at a time. Rushing ahead is not going to serve any purpose this week. One card this week. We're going to have 2. We're going to... Again, you couldn't write this. Yeah, anytime there's any pessimism with the 7 of Swords, or recognising actually that it is the pessimism itself, the impatience that is what's keeping us in a box, when we don't believe that things are changing, when we don't believe that we can get through something, when we try and rush ahead, understandably because things are uncomfortable, when we try to find solutions because we don't want to witness what is going on, that inability to hold space causes pessimism. That makes us close down, that makes us constrict. When we constrict, we can't receive different ways of seeing things. We can't receive joy, we can't receive pleasure, we can't receive love to our fullest here, and that does lead to depletion. In the 8, makes me very emotional, that card, in the 8 of Cups. That leads to all of this wisdom beaching itself, all of this wisdom ending, all of this wisdom and knowledge and connection to our emotions leading nowhere, causing such a loss, such a loss. There's a difference between feeling something and allowing it to take you on a process or a journey, or feeling something and it going round and round and round in circles and getting you nowhere. There is a difference. The difference is depletion. The difference is how you feel. You'll know if you've gone through something because you will feel lighter, whether that's a healing, a reading, work, a relationship, a quote unquote lesson. You will feel lighter. If you're feeling depleted, the process hasn't completed. If you're feeling depleted, the process hasn't completed. Now that's pretty impressive. So what do? 10 of Cups underneath. We find the joy. We find the beauty in something. We reconnect back to our own ecstatic union. We've come back to that Shakti card. Yeah, that's a choice. It's the Lover's card in the normal tarot. That's a choice. We take a moment to reconnect to all aspects of ourselves, our masculine, our feminine, our light, our dark. We find that balance so that that energy can shift through us. Why is that important? Well, underneath it all, when I said you couldn't write this, patience. Let those stars come down. Let that vision come down. The Four of Swords. Have patience this week, because underneath it all we have temperance. Bridget. I want to say bridge, actually. Have patience, that the alchemy comes from the bridge that we are. The alchemy comes in our ability to take what we feel, take what we receive, and create something different. It's an ongoing process. Process being the operative word. Have patience with yourself while you do that. Allow things to come at their own pace, your own wisdom included. Take care, and I'll see you next week.